Manchester United are trying to get a January deal done for Sverre Nypan. Diego León has signed all his documents for Manchester United ahead of his summer move. Patrick Dorgu's asking price is revealed. Barcelona make contact for a January loan move for Marcus Rashford. This plus all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with the transfer news stuff. So, Diego León has signed all documents to join Manchester United in 2025. Contract in place for 17-year-old left-back to become Manchester United player from July 2025 when he turns 18. Deal sealed by Jason Wilcox after South American-led scout Giuseppe Antosino pushed for León as a talent. Paraguayan left-back joins from Cerro Porteño for $4 million fixed fee, $1 million in easy add-ons, and $2,000 to $3,000 extra in difficult add-ons. Here we go, confirmed. That came from Fabrizio Romano. So Romano suggesting that all the documents have been signed. We obviously bought news the other day, so we had the here we go last week, and then the other day the club president himself said, yeah, everything's kind of done. But according to Romano, all documents now signed. I don't know when we're going to get an official announcement, because technically he's not joining until July, or whether we'll wait until the transfer window opens. I'm not 100% sure when we're going to get some kind of official announcement. But according to Romano, everything's kind of signed and sealed. Massively exciting player, really, really good profile. Fits not just the profile of being young, up and coming, and developmental. Also one of the best kind of talents for his position and his age group, coming from from South America, but also fits the profile of United want to increase the physicality in the team and the physical kind of output, and he definitely would fit that mold, because he looks like an absolute tank at 17-year-old, massively exciting, really, really fast, very aggressive, yeah, massively exciting player, definitely. Definitely ticks all the boxes of what we're looking for at United. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, and smash a like if you're excited for Diego León coming to United. Obviously, it's going to be for the summer, but, he looks a really, really talented player. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, another very talented player is Sverre Nypan. So TBR Football can reveal that Manchester United are trying to get a deal done ahead of a number of Premier League sides for Norwegian midfielder Sverre Nypan. United have been confident in signing Nypan for some time now, and with January just around the corner, clubs are now starting to get into gear, ready to strike. We're told by sources that Rosenborg will look to pocket at least £10 million from a deal, but they are leaving the decision over which club to Nypan himself, and there's plenty of interest. Strong interest from Bayern Munich, RB Leipzig, and Borussia Dortmund has emerged, whilst Barcelona have also had contact in recent weeks. Premier League-wise, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, and Aston Villa are all admirers of Nypan, but it is believed that United have long been his preference. He is apparently a Man United fan as well. There was a video online about him getting a United calendar, I think it was. I don't know whether that was recent or in the past. But he is apparently a United fan. Very, very talented player, very highly regarded. Could come in and kind of play in that central midfield position. Can also play attacking midfield as well. Very, very, can play in a couple of different positions. 33 appearances, 8 goals, 10 assists. I know it's a different league, but you can only score goals and create chances and goals in the league that you're in. Really, really exciting kind of player. Whether he would be first team ready, I'm not so sure at the moment, but fits the mold of being young, developmental, up and coming. We have been scouting him for a while as well. He's just turned 18, so he can now be signed by us, because obviously of the whole kind of Brexit issue. You can't sign players from Europe now if they're under 18, so that's elapsed. Whether we would sign him and maybe loan him back, that's potentially an option, but definitely really, really interesting player. Could potentially be a Mason Mount replacement. We've just had the injury blow from him yesterday. He's going to be out for several weeks. Could also potentially play in midfield as an Eriksen replacement as well. So very talented, very highly regarded. And you can see from the report there, the amount of clubs that would be interested in him. It's just obviously with him being a fan, I do think that gives us an advantage, but also play time though might be something to do with it as well. And I don't know whether any of those other teams would potentially give him a better pathway to the first team. I don't think so. I think we're very good at giving young players a chance, but massively exciting. I would want to wait for a bit more credibility, though. Graham Bailey's a decent journalist, but he's hit-y-missy, sometimes reliable, sometimes not reliable. Personally, I want to wait for a bit more credibility before getting too giddy and too excited. But very interested player. Definitely one that we are heavily invested in because we have had, stronger links with him by more credible people in the past. It's just I would want to wait for a bit more credibility personally. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, another player we've been heavily linked with is Patrick Dorgu. So Manchester United are exploring a January move for Patrick Dorgu. He would find it hard to turn down a move to United. Lecce want £30 million. That came from Dean Jones Soccer. Again, a decent source, but one I would say take with a pinch of salt. But really interesting profile, 20 years old. Again, would be another player that could fit the mold of being young, developmental, up and coming, would definitely increase the physical ceiling as well. He's another player, very fast, very powerful, very strong looking kind of player. Can play in a multiple of position as well. So as you can see, he's played 9 times at right wing this season, once at right back. And then he's played down the left-hand side and made 9 appearances down there as well. 17 appearances, 3 goals this season. Really, really potentially promising young player again that could come in and again would tick the boxes of being young, up-and-coming, developmental, as we've mentioned before. So according to these reports, a double deal potentially in January for Nypan and for Dorgu could be on the cards. Personally, I like both players. Think they've got huge potential and would be really astute signings as well, not ones that are going to break the bank. And you could see potentially United building a future with them as well. I would just want to see a bit more credibility personally before getting too excited about them both. But the interest is there, I think, in both players. I just want to hear a little bit more from more credible sources because Dean Jones is decent, Graham Bailey decent, but they're not the most credible sources. But definitely a player of interest. Definitely want to keep an eye on. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, another player, we'll go through this news next. So, Nimfasha Berchimas, currently on trial, scored and impressed for the under-18s in a friendly against Burnley. Obviously, there's been reports he's on trial at United. Very talented, very highly regarded, 16-year-old American player. Can play. He's a right-footed left winger, that kind of inverted role. Really, really interesting. Is on trial. I think he's been on trial at Bayern Munich before in the past, but wouldn't have done himself any harm playing and scoring, and apparently looked quite impressive by all accounts as well. So definitely that could be one to keep an eye on. Obviously, that's a future signing, but potentially we could sign him and loan him back because, again, there's going to be issues around his age and signing players from overseas and they're under 18, but really interesting. And it just shows that United are doing these sort of things behind the scenes. I remember covering a video last week where I think it was about Diego León, where they were saying that they've been working on this deal for about 6 months, which does kind of show that, look, they are doing things in secret and definitely looking at these sort of players as well, which is massively exciting. So fair play. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, another player that we've been heavily linked with in the past or in the summer was Jared Branthwaite. So Manchester United are keen to persuade Everton star Jared Branthwaite to head to Old Trafford despite facing stiff competition from arch rivals Liverpool and Manchester City ahead of the transfer window reopening for business at the turn of the year, Give Me Sports sources can reveal. Manchester United, Liverpool and Man City are facing an uphill battle in their hopes of winning the race for Branthwaite's signature. According to Give Me Sports sources, it has been deemed that there is a slim chance that any of the sides will meet Everton's demands of up to £80 million next month. I mean, if they still want £80 million for Jared Branthwaite, they can absolutely jog on. I think that's a ridiculous amount of money. Remember, in the summer, there was all the kind of talk. We offered 50 plus 5. I think it was in add-ons. We had personal terms agreed with him. So he's definitely a player we want because we would have signed him in the summer had it not been for Everton's kind of transfer demands. Asking for £80 million is ridiculous. Like, you could get Schlotterbeck for that, who's, in my opinion, a way better player than Jared Branthwaite for £80 million, potentially from Dortmund. So I wouldn't go anywhere near that deal for £80 million personally. But, he is a player that we do want because we've agreed personal terms with him already in the summer, but I don't think we're stupid enough to go for that sort of price. Again, I would want to wait for a bit more credibility around that kind of news story, but one to keep an eye on. I could maybe see us going for him in the summer again if Everton drop their asking price, but we're not going anywhere near that deal if they're wanting £80 million. That's ridiculous. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now let's go through the Rashford stuff. So apologies, I know it's boring, and I know some of you are probably sick of hearing about him now as well, but quite a few updates. The thing that's interesting about the Rashford story for me is, one, obviously there's a connection there with him being homegrown and a boyhood United fan and coming through the youth team and stuff, and he has been a good player for us over the years. I think people overlook that, and a little bit kind of harsh on Rashford. There's not too many young players that come through that get the amount of goals and games that he has, so I just think he's lost his way, and there's something going on behind the scenes for United to all of a sudden just decide we want, and because the interesting thing about the Rashford story, I've been thinking about this a lot, is they want to do it as part of as a cultural reset. So that suggests to me that it's something behind the scenes, not necessarily performances on the pitch, because they want to get rid of a toxic culture. And if they're targeting Rashford, that suggests to me that he's part of that kind of that culture that they want to get rid of. But let's go through the updates. So Manchester United have not received any formal approaches for Rashford, and it remains to be seen whether that changes in January or his future is instead resolved in the summer. Paris Saint-Germain have not made a fresh approach, even though their sports advisor, Luis Campos, is well aware of Rashford's situation. PSG president Nasser Al-Khelaifi has held historic talks with the Rashford camp, but he won't initiate further talks unless given clear encouragement. This is because when PSG spoke to Rashford before he signed his new 5-year extension in July 23, Al-Khelaifi felt the French champions were being used as leverage to get the best possible terms for Manchester United. PSG backed off and haven't engaged further since. Rashford would be open to a switch to La Liga, and Barcelona view him as a fit, but the finances of the potential deal make it near impossible to pull off unless Manchester United agree a loan and cover a significant portion of Rashford's wages. Gimme Sport can exclusively reveal that Al Hilal, Al Ittihad and Al Qadeshi have all expressed an interest in Rashford. Should Saudi make an approach, it would be handled centrally by the Saudi Pro League sporting director. Now that came from Ben Jacobs. Now Ben Jacobs, a bit more credible than the previous sources that we mentioned. I still think he's a hit and miss journalist personally, but he is a little bit more credible and than the others. Effectively saying that PSG refused felt used by Rashford when he signed his new deal at United, which is a very fair point, because I remember at that time there were loads of stories about him going to PSG, and that potentially was us being used, and that's why he's on the kind of inflated wages that I think he is on now. PSG would still come in for Rashford, but Rashford would have to show encouragement to want to go there for that to happen. And obviously he has come out in his interview and said that he wants a new challenge, so that could be one to keep an eye on. Ben Jacobs also said the Saudi Pro League were interested, but whether Rashford would want to go to the Saudi Pro League, I highly doubt at this particular moment in time, although it would be definitely a viable option. They could afford his wage, so it'd be interesting to see what he's actually thinking, whether he still wants to stay in Europe or whether it is about money. Then maybe a move to the Saudi Pro League wouldn't be off the cards. But the Barcelona story is really interesting. Barcelona, the team interested. Financially, though, they would struggle because they're struggling to register Dani Olmo for the second part of the season. But if there was a loan option available, then that could be possible. In my opinion, if you do a loan to Barcelona, you would need to include some kind of obligation to buy, and then that would potentially be a route out of the club for United. We'll go for the next news, and then I'll give you a bit more information afterwards as well. So Barcelona have made contact with Manchester United over a January loan move for Marcus Rashford. Barcelona have made contact with United regarding a potential half-season loan, which would include an option to buy the 27-year-old in the summer. The fee put forward by the Spanish Giants was £35 million. Man United did not immediately respond to the approach, but Rashford has been made aware of the interest and is keen on a move. Now that's really interesting because not the first time we've heard stories about potentially Barcelona. Obviously, Ben Jacobs, now Steve Kay, who's a decent source as well, suggesting Barcelona could be an option for Rashford. Henry Winter, if you remember in his interview, did say something about being Spain being his preferred destination. Now, Jamie Jackson on the Stretford Paddock the other day was talking about United, basically just saying that they just want to get him out as quickly as possible, and they would be happy to even sanction a loan move in January, even if we have to pay like 70-80% of his wages, and that could be possible, which I'd have no issues with if it does include some kind of option or obligation to buy, because it's going to, like, and that report, £35 million, does kind of suggest that there's something clearly that's happened with Marcus Rashford behind the scenes, something we're not aware of. It can't just be because of performances on the pitch. Like, yes, he's been, he's got attitude problems on the pitch, and you can clearly see that he doesn't necessarily look happy, but I don't think his performances have been that bad to the point where you want to just kick him out of the club entirely, and that you'd be happy to loan him somewhere and pay his wages in the way that we did with Jadon Sancho, but Jadon Sancho had clearly falling out with Ten Hag and some of the management staff behind the scenes. So that was clearly like a conflict where something had happened, the relationship had broken down, so we just had to kind of move him on and take what we could for Jadon Sancho because of that kind of clear breakdown in the relationship. And I don't think Rashford, as I mentioned, I don't think his performances on the pitch have been that bad to warrant, us just completely kicking him out of the club, and happy to sanction a loan deal. There's got to be something more sinister that's happened behind the scenes that we're not aware of, in my opinion, based on that. But going back to the kind of reports, Barcelona are starting to become a bit of a viable option, potentially on loan with an option or an obligation to buy in January, us covering part of his wages. There's no smoke without fire. There's a few other kind of, like I said, Jamie Jackson suggesting Spain, Henry Winter, who broke the story, suggesting Spain. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. And if you can kind of do that, that helps us with PSR, but I don't know whether it would help us enough for January. Again, really interesting. We'll have to wait and see how this kind of story develops, but no smoke without fire. I would want to see a bit more credibility regarding that, but it does look like potentially Barcelona could be a potential option in January as a loan move for Rashford. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.